Welcome back for another RPG a Day 2016 video. This is day 15 and the question is, what is your best source of inspiration for RPGs? Now, myself personally, I'm a big fan of referring back to classical real-world mythology during games, since I think these archetypal stories are very powerful and they still speak to us even today. That's why they're still remembered, and they say something about us as humans. They cover these huge archetypal concepts from like the hero's journey, love, loss, honor, war, all manner of things that we still use as concepts in our storytelling today. So I find that I have a lot of books that I've sort of collected over the years, not necessarily just role-playing books, but a lot of books that refer to mythology. For instance, I've got one here which is a guide to ancient civilizations. It's a fairly weighty tome, and it's an illustrated guide to belief, mythology and art. That's very interesting. I've also got here yet another weighty tome, which is the Dictionary of Mythology, and this is more sort of laid out more like an encyclopedia covering the various heroes and legends of many different cultures. It's very easy to reference, which is something I like in my books, and also there's an awful lot of information crammed into here. It's fairly light on the sort of illustration front. Like I say, it's laid out very similar to an encyclopedia with like triple column text on each page, but it's possibly not the most exciting read, but it's certainly very good as a reference point to then go and do further research, which I generally do with these books. I'll read a bit about something which I think may be of use to me in a session, and then I'll take that as a jumping off point. And especially nowadays with like Google and the internet, you can easily search for more stuff related to it. Also, I find, since I'm looking into like real world stuff, that like real world history and real world countries and different civilizations, both modern and in the past, can be a great inspiration for games. So I've got things like this Times Compact History of the World and World Atlas here. Again, very useful reference books, very easy to find stuff in, and they can lead you on to further research. I also find if you're running like a modern day game in like World of Darkness or something like that, and you're setting it in a real world city, having guidebooks to the city is very useful, since they tend to present things in a way for like the tourist who's visiting the city. So especially if you haven't been there in real life, it'll have the stuff you need to know first and foremost. So just an example of one I've got here, I've got a number of these eyewitness travel guides which are very useful. Again, very easy to reference. I'm sure you're noticing a theme here, but they also have lots of illustrations in there which you can use to help your descriptions of how places look. They also have maps. So for instance, there's a map there showing the North Hudson, etc. there, and the various areas surrounding that, if you can see that. Some of them also have things like there's a subway map there to the back, which can be very useful if people are trying to get around on that and describing that. It also tends to highlight areas of particular importance. The eyewitness travel guides, they have handy like keys at the back with various symbols on, so you can locate restaurants, public transport links, churches, etc. All very useful during a game when the players go, oh yeah, we want to find a way to get quickly from here to here. Is there a subway station, like a train station nearby? And you can easily refer to your reference book, your tourist guide, and say, oh yeah, there's one just a couple of streets over. And that's very useful in a game. I also find that visual inspiration is very important when I'm running a game. Often just seeing a picture, the truism that the picture paints 1,000 words being very true in my opinion, a picture can spark off ideas. And that's why I'm a big fan of things like Pinterest online, where you can create these sort of virtual cork boards where you can pin interesting pictures and other people can look at them. And I have a few of these boards set up, and generally as I'm sort of going through like my Google Plus feed or Facebook or something like that, if I see a picture I think is interesting, I'll put it to this board, and when I need a bit of inspiration, I'll scroll through the boards, and occasionally a picture will jump out at me and it will give me some inspiration. I also have a number of art books. For instance, here's just one random one, which is about the Goblins of Labyrinth, which is the film with David Bowie in it, obviously. And it has a lot of the concept art for the creatures that were eventually used in the labyrinth. And there's some great pictures inside this book, and they're really inspiring, and they give you some great ideas. Take this little lamplighter goblin in armour there. I can easily think of an NPC or a setting that could house that little creature. So books are a lot of where I get my inspiration from for role-playing games. However, also films, images online. I mean, there's nothing wrong with if you say, and this is something I've used quite a lot myself. Let's say you go, I want to create a fantasy world or a campaign setting. Thinking of something you do want to be central to your campaign. So let's say you go, I want it to be a world covered in forests, home to like elves and fey creatures. There's nothing wrong with you going on Google image search, typing in elves or like magical forest or something like that, seeing what images come up and taking some of them as inspiration. There's also films are great for inspiration because they're very visual. They also have storytelling built into them, but it's very sort of condensed to keep it within the confines of a film. So it's normally sort of quite short and quite punchy. You can put a film on in the background and be doing something else. So they are great sources of inspiration as well. So there we are. I hope that's answered the question. My best source of inspiration for RPGs, I would say overall, books, what I tend to turn to, particularly reference books. Then I would say it's the internet and imagery that really appeals to me, and also films as a very sort of visual storytelling method. I think you could take a whole lot of inspiration from those, and also as well as the inspiration you take from your players and other people in your lives. So I hope that's answered the question, and I will see you tomorrow for question 16. Until then, take care.